Ernesto holding steady through the Leeward Islands. Tropical Storm Ernesto holding with winds of around 50 miles per hour right now, and it is advancing west-northwestwards through the Leeward Islands at this point. It's just off St Kitts and Nevis at 16.8 north, 62.4 degrees west. As of 12 p.m. local time, this August 13th, it had winds of 50 miles per hour, a pressure estimate of 1006 millibars, moving west-northwest at 24 miles per hour, so moving relatively quickly still, and it is on course to strike the Virgin Islands and possibly the eastern part of Puerto Rico before pulling upwards towards the north and then eventually heading out towards Bermuda. Well, here is the current position of the storm with the wind field, which extends out in 3 of the 4 quadrants. Southwestern side still incredibly weak actually, but the other sides do have some fairly strong winds at times as well. A hurricane watch has been issued for the US and British Virgin Islands, Culebra and Vieques, and it is currently 24 kilometers from Montserrat, 34 from Nevis, 49 from St Kitts, 249 from St Croix, and 423 from San Juan. All the tropical storm warnings that we had in effect at the last update are still active. They extend from Guadeloupe all the way through to Puerto Rico and all points in between. So with that hurricane watch, they are concerned that the storm may be strengthening quite a bit too much and may get towards hurricane strength before it leaves the islands. So the primary hazard has now switched to damaging winds more than the rainfall, as well as because the rainfall expectations have decreased somewhat. We are now expecting maybe 6 inches of rain throughout the islands, maybe a little bit higher in some places, and winds are now the dominant threat, with hurricane force winds possible as the storm passes through the Virgin Islands and those islands off Puerto Rico late tonight, early tomorrow morning. Well, here's the forecast track then. Our latest expectation here as we move through the next few days, so very quickly through that region, then slows down as it pivots out towards the open Atlantic, and quite slow by the time it gets towards Bermuda there. Could be a Category 2 hurricane by then. That's the forecast from the National Hurricane Center. They are expecting a Category 2 peak still, just shy of major hurricane status, and still well within range there of a potential Bermuda landfall or direct hit. Latest estimates have 50 miles per hour depicted by the National Hurricane Center and Recon, although the satellite estimates have really run away actually, up to about 65, maybe even close to 70 miles per hour now. So the structure appears to be there when you look at it on a visual perspective, but from what Recon have been finding, it's been a rather slow progress actually, still relatively broad and no real signs of intensification on a rapid rate. There's that cone from the National Hurricane Center. By the time we get to the weekend, it will be affecting Bermuda there. Could be a strong Category 2, and once again, quite ambiguous as to whether it gets to hurricane status before it leaves the islands or after. It is a talking point there, the potential to do that. Here's the latest GFS forecast model then, taking the storm out towards the north, once again becoming quite a powerful hurricane, passing by Bermuda and then getting rather close to the coast of Canada by the time we get to the end of that 7-day period. It gets very close to Nova Scotia and Newfoundland, and possibility there of a Newfoundland landfall as we get into the early stage of next week. Still quite a long way out for that though. We're going to take it one area at a time. Now, I did check the GFS ensembles earlier, and it did suggest to me that there would be no indication that the storm would reach the United States. Of course, the US has had quite a lot of storms lately, but it does appear on pretty much every forecast philosophy that there won't be any mainland US impacts. Now, there it is moving northwards again. Some decent core in that storm on the reflectivity simulation here. There it is moving through the area again. A period of strong rain, heavy rain over Puerto Rico. Obviously the rainfall will be limited because it is moving relatively quickly. It will still be around 20 miles per hour movement once it rounds that corner and turns towards the north. Then it will slow down as mentioned, and there again is that GFS run taking it into Newfoundland with some very heavy rainfall too. Well, here is the 7-day rainfall expectations then, the total values, and you'll see around those islands then we're now looking at maybe 4 to 6 inches as a general rule. Some areas may still get higher than that, but look at it all congregating further north there, very close to Bermuda. There's some areas not far from the island there that could get up to 24 inches of rainfall. That would be an incredible amount. That's 600 millimeters. Look around at some of the other islands. In fact, parts of Hispaniola could be getting 5 inches there as well, so we don't want to forget about that. But generally across all of those islands, looking at maximums of 6 inches, 150 millimeters. Sea surface temperatures also look fairly decent as well. You can consider these temperatures that we're loading up here as to be minimums. If anything, it may be warmer than that on the sea surface. At least 28 degrees Celsius those temperatures are in Celsius. And then as it moves further north, those temperatures will remain for a good period until at least after it passes Bermuda, and those temperatures start to drop quite a way after that. Still not fully up to temperature off Canada. Those temperatures will be a bit of a struggle if the storm ends up there, and it will hasten extratropical transition. But right now, very good indeed. A few spots possibly even 30 degrees. Here's the latest satellite imagery showing the storm's progress, looking quite decent today, looking a lot more spirally, definitely, and despite all of that convection, which is really pumping up there, not huge convection it has to be said, but moderate you could say, suggesting that this storm is a moderate tropical storm, but certainly satellite estimates are bowled over by this. Here's a view from Puerto Rico. You can see the storm just starting to enter the sphere here of their lookout, reaching the Virgin Islands, some of the high cirrus from the storm, but probably not really getting any strong winds yet, certainly not in Puerto Rico. And looking at an even wider shot there of that whole zone towards the Virgin Islands and Anguilla, a few little thunderstorms just about to reach that area on the periphery of the storm. Here's a wide shot, enhanced visible there as well, really showing off the cloud tops there, really blowing up around the center. So it certainly looks like intensification is occurring, albeit slowly. A lot of dry air off to the northwest there, but it doesn't look like there's any of it entrained in the storm, so that's a boon for Ernesto there. Wind shear doesn't look to be an issue because there's tons of cloud cover all around there, and so it does look like it is on a steady footing here for some intensification. I would say it's unlikely for it to get to hurricane status before it reaches those islands, but I think they've put it out really as a precautionary measure. Very interesting how they haven't actually issued a hurricane watch for Puerto Rico amongst all that, but certainly the potential for the storm to slowly ramp up. Maybe if it got to 60-65 miles per hour by the end of the day, then maybe it could be reaching hurricane status just as it exits that region by the time we get to the early hours and daybreak tomorrow morning. And finally, some radar imagery there as well. Showing the storm's core, looking like it's getting better there too. Certainly got some good rotation around it. Some really heavy rainfall on the eastern side of the storm there, depicted by the Guadeloupe radar. And its next stop is the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico.